Hello, I'm Nina Courson, singer-songwriter in the punk rock band Healthy Junkies. Very happy to be on the Devolution magazine YouTube channel, Devlog. And today I'm going to talk about the 7 deadly sins. Starting with lust. What is lust? If you look in a dictionary, they tell us lust is a strong sexual desire. I think it's also a hunger for anything. It could be a hunger for power, but people often associate it with sex, really. But I also think when it comes to 7 deadly sins, and this one in particular, it's kind of inspired by humankind's perpetual struggle to control their emotions and take over their animalistic instincts in a way. So the thing is with lust, I think it can become dangerous when it's motivated by inappropriate targets. A man can have strong desire towards a child or something, which would be completely wrong, for example. So I think it's good with love. You're in love with someone and you have those strong desires toward that person, which is absolutely fine. And I think a lot of people have been in that situation before, which is a great feeling, but which is like a good thing, but then it can turn bad when you lose that control and you feel lust for the wrong type of people, which you shouldn't feel lust for. And so it's kind of good and bad to me, the feeling of lust. Good when you're in love, but not good when you become obsessed with someone who's not into you as such and behave inappropriately, I think. So this is what it kind of inspires me when I think about lust. Gluttony. So they tell us gluttony is an excess in eating or drinking. So I've never considered that as a sin, because I think there are always underlying causes or reasons for someone to do that. I've been, not guilty of it, because I don't think I should be or feel guilty for it. But as a teenager, I was eating a lot. And I think it's because I wasn't feeling good in myself. I wasn't feeling happy. So I would go home from school and I would just eat a lot. And that would make me forget about life and things that used to get me down. And this is my own experience, but I think it's fair to say there are a lot of people who take refuge into food or drink because they have issues in their life or something, they don't know how to deal with it, and it just makes them feel happy or good to drink or eat. And back in the day, I don't think they considered that as a reason. We've done a lot of progresses on psychology and all, eating disorders, all that, which I've experienced myself, being a bulimic at some point in my teens. So I think it's all to do with the mind, your state of mind. And this kind of explains, I'm not saying in every cases, but I think in some cases it can explain why we do that. So this is what gluttony inspires me when I think about it. It's all about the mind. Greed. Intense and selfish desire for something, such as wealth or power. So greed, I think, is one of the worst one. I think it's kind of part of human nature anyway. We all have it in us, but it's a little bit like lust. It's all about being able to control the urge to get something or wanting something at all cost, basically. But I think the materialistic values are being fostered by living in a competitive culture anyway, that encourage the idea that wealth and stature are necessary in order to be happy. So I think that's what greed is about. People in power do a lot of wrong to the planet in the name of greed. Corporation, politicians, all these people are guilty of it, I think. And I think it's driven by selfishness as well. You know, it's something being greedy with food, which could kind of get close to gluttony. But once again, it's different because I think gluttony is all to do with mental health, when greed is more to do with selfishness in a way. So this is what greed inspires me. It's all about being selfish and being driven by personal needs rather than thinking of others. Sloth. Reluctancy to walk or make an effort, also called laziness. So I think this one is a bit like gluttony. It's all to do with mental health. I mean, of course, you do have lazy people too, that are just lazy because they don't feel like it, or they don't want to do the work or something. But I think it's not as simple as that either. I think it's all about how you feel at that time in your life. It can be a lack of drive, or it can be a task avoidance as well, which can be caused by a fear of failure, also caused by an unrealistic desire for perfectionism, because you know the society that we live in is very much obsessed with perfectionism. I think you just have to look at all the filters online, always have to look our best, always have to share the best highlight of our life. But I think it hides the fact that maybe it's not as perfect as we want it to look. And I think it has something to do with that when it comes to being lazy. I think sometimes it can be caused by a fear of failure as well. And I think it can be overcome anytime. And I think everyone can feel lazy. It's also part of human nature. I think it's all in us too. But I wouldn't call it laziness though. I think I'd call it more like fear of failure, really. And sometimes that can paralyze us in trying even. And I think it's also connected to mental health, really. Wrath, also known as anger, strong vengeful anger or indignation. I mean, I think that can be triggered by two of the other sins, which are envy and pride. And I think it's got to do with having too much of a big ego, not in all cases, but I mean, in my experience, it can be seen that way. But then you have all kind of anger, road rage, air rage, computer rage. But once again, it's all to do with mental health, anger management problems, they call it. And we talk a lot about anxiety and depression, but actually anger is another big one. But I think it's all about changing the thoughts and belief in our head that focus on perceiving threats. So it's all about feeling threatened as well in some cases. And I think it's all about feeling more confident within yourself. Talking from my own experience, I mean, I used to be a very angry person. I don't know if it happens to everyone that way, but for me, it's like as I got older, I became less angry, and I think it's part of life. Anger is an energy, they say, and well, I think actually Johnny Rotten said that. And I think in some ways it can be good, like it can help you achieve more. For example, if you're angry, you're going to be more motivated, and in order to achieve what you want to achieve, and you're going to push yourself in a way. So that can be good like that when you use it for yourself. But when you're angry towards other people, your loved ones and all that, that's when it becomes a negative thing. So once again, it's all about control. It's good to have a little bit of it, not too much of it. So it's all about balancing it right, really. Envy, they tell us, is a feeling of resentful longing aroused by someone else's possession, quality, or luck. It's very close to jealousy as well. But I think it's quite different. I think being jealous is more about being insecure, anxious, scared of losing something. When envy, I think, is a bit more of a nasty one, because if you look, into the meaning of it, official meaning of it, it's about wanting to take away something from someone and have it for yourself, basically. So there's a bit of an ill will involved with it. I think it comes to feeling inferior, maybe having a bit of an inferiority complex. I think it's also a mix of admiration as well as discontent. But I think it's also all about always comparing yourself to others, I think this is where it's coming from. People tend to do that. And I think this is the key to not being envious. It's about looking at your own life, looking at your own achievement, and instead of looking over your neighbor's achievement or your friend's achievement, is you need to be happy for them, and not comparing it to your own achievement or your own life. And I think this is the key to this one, is basically being happy with yourself, and don't look elsewhere, don't compare yourself. This is, to me, the roots of envy, in comparing yourself, and that's definitely not a healthy thing to do. Pride is a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievement. So I think pride can be a good thing. It's good to take pride in what you do, in your work. I'm proud of my songs. I'm proud of my bands. I think it's a good thing. It gives you confidence, some self-esteem, and also respect, gives you a feeling of rewards. But I think it's also important not to have too much of it. Otherwise, you end up with a big vanity problem, and it can, I don't know, be seen as narcissistic as well, and being self-obsessed when you have too much of it. I think it can help you as well overcome sloth, which I spoke about earlier. So if you feel really proud about something you've achieved, you know, it makes you want to do more. So there's definitely positiveness in it. But once again, like I've said in the other scenes, it's all about balance. It's all about control. You want to keep your head and your feet on the ground. You want to fly away with it, and because otherwise you become pretentious. And I think there's a fine line between the two. It's important to be proud, but don't become too proud. Otherwise, I think it can be seen as being pretentious, and also some of them can feel excluded by that kind of behavior. They can feel like, oh, they're not part of it, and you know, I think it can be quite humiliating to some of the people when you're too proud. You know, I mean, I'm only talking from experiences, but people who are proud and too proud can sometimes belittle other people, you know, on their journey to be proud. And I don't really go with this. I think be proud, but not too much, basically. I've come to the end of those 7 deadly sins. So am I a saint? Am I a sinner? You decide.